Hello parents, guardians and carers. My name is Stacey Gwillam and I'm teaching Units 3 and 4 Biology this year to your student. I'm making this video because many of you I have not met yet. Some of you I have had the pleasure of meeting already. I'm just reintroducing myself. And I also wanted to go through some key tips and make sure that I put a face to the name so that when you receive the email, you know who you're talking to. This is a really important year for all of the students. So many of them are juggling multiple 3-4 subjects this year. Some are trying to balance one 3-4 subject with their Year 11 studies. Irrespective, students find that biology sometimes can be a little bit intimidating with the volume, particularly at the beginning of the course, of new content and new terms, as we start with some complex biochemistry that they might not have had exposure to prior to this year. So we do have some tried and tested strategies that we are teaching the students in class. So they have heard of these all before, and I'm just introducing these in the way that I would at parent-teacher interviews to you so that you understand some of the things that we're asking your students to do at home. Biology is quite content heavy. So what we would like the students to do is to practice over the whole year building memory and retrieving terminology and retrieving sequences of biochemical pathways and events over a long period of time. And what that will do is help them to access that memory in the critical times during assessments and during their exams. There are 3 main things that I want to suggest are a focus for the students. My top 3 tips for today. Number 1 is that students need to regularly practice retrieving content and learning terminologies. So one of the strategies that I often suggest is using cue cards. Now, I do prefer paper cue cards because that means that they can start to actually play with them when it comes to revision time and make connections between key terms and actually explain to themselves how those terms link together and use them in their answers. However, there are many online options such as Quizlet and Anki that they can use, and they can't lose them if they're online and they're quite mobile. Either way, cue cards are an excellent way to constantly check your understanding and your use of terminology and key terms and help to build that memory and retrieve the memory, which is a very important part of the practice. The other thing they need to be doing is applying that by doing some practice questions. Now, there are lots of these in Edrollo. There are lots of these in the booklets that I produce for the students, but they must be practicing those right from the beginning of the course and using the terms that they've got in their cue cards in questions that are VCAR style questions, and there are hundreds available to them. The second thing is that they need to be able to analyze and decode the question effectively. Many students struggle with this, and they have the knowledge sitting down in classroom conversation. They can explain their ideas very well, but they're not always able to exactly analyze and work out what the examiner is looking for. So what the students need to be able to do is identify exactly which part of the content the question is relating to. Then they can access their memory and bring those terms to the front of their mind and utilize those terms. The second thing they need to be able to do is actually make sure that they are only answering the question that is being asked, and not the question they would like to answer or the question they think is being asked or should be asked. Okay, so that means really understanding the task words. So is it asking them to discuss or compare or identify or describe, and then using their content and accessing the correct content and applying that to the question using the correct terms. Okay, so they need to really be practicing their terms and then practicing their ability to read a question and absolutely get what the examiner is looking for onto the paper. And the third, probably most important thing, is that I'd like the students to really embrace the fact that this is a struggle. Year 12 and learning is a difficult challenge for them. But if it wasn't a difficult challenge for them, they wouldn't actually be making any progress and challenging their minds and developing. So it's really important that they understand struggle is part of learning. It's part of moving themselves forward, and not to be intimidated by that, not to let that get them down. To access the support that's available, and there is lots of support. I offer study sessions in the biology room. All of their subjects will have support available to them to help them navigate that difficulty, and there are many different resources they can use. However, I find some students find that struggle a little overwhelming and aren't seeing it as part of the course itself. So that's probably the most important thing, is keep a growth mindset, understand that they can do it, and it is difficult, and that's okay. They'll overcome that with practice and with repetition and with multiple exposures. They will be able to achieve their goals in the end, and not to be intimidated by complexity or the challenge of the course. So they're my 3 things that I like to share with parents. Obviously, we're hoping to meet in a little while in the second round of parent-teacher interviews, and I am available on email and on the telephone if you would like to follow up at any point. I hope that you all stay well, and please rest assured that your students are familiar with these strategies, and I can share this video with them as well. And I hope to meet you soon. Bye-bye.